Pokémon Legends Arceus, the huge new game from Game Freak that everyone was looking forward to and supposedly everyone and their grandmother was planning on playing, myself included. I watched all the trailers and the game looked really good, at first. But even now, after release, I see so many YouTubers praising the game to high heavens, giving it a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10s, saying that it is the best Pokémon game they have ever played. For me, I have a lot of issues with the game, but this is why I kind of felt compelled to make this video. This video will contain spoilers though. I will try to keep them to the end of the video and I will give you a warning before they happen. But the points I want to go over kind of require me to at least touch the story a little bit. The points I want to go over and judge this game by are as follows: graphics, controls, moves, AI, design, gameplay loop, and story. So with that, let's begin. Let's just start with how this game looks. As someone whose favorite Pokémon game to date is Pokémon Shield, and as someone who can look past low-resolution graphics as long as the game itself is solid and fun, I still have my issues with this entry in the Pokémon main line. Everything in the game looks like it was made for several console generations ago. Graphics look oversaturated, making the colors on the models and environments look plain ugly at times. Everything looks washed out and almost as if it was made for either the 3DS or even the GameCube lineup of Pokémon games. I know that I said I am able to look past low-res graphics, but I thought it enough of an issue to mention here, given how so many gave Pokémon Shield flack for having low-res textures on some of the trees. If it was just the trees, I'd be completely fine with it. However, the Pokémon characters and even the landscapes just look plain ugly at times. While in older games in the series you only had that issue if you looked closely at the textures, you can quite easily tell it here, even from a distance. Now, this is only a slight nitpick, and I understand that not everyone might have that problem, but for me, the controls of this game are a bit off-putting. My muscle memory when playing a Pokémon game is different from what the controls are in this game, and it will certainly need some adjustment on the player's part to get used to it. Pressing ZR even in a battle to throw a Pokéball is more than a little bit confusing at first, and more than once did I find myself in the moves menu of my Pokémon when in all actuality I wanted to catch the Pokémon I was fighting. In an open world, as which this game was marketed, but more to that point later, I would have also expected a jump button and the ability to swim for at least short distances, especially given how this game seems to be heavily inspired by games like Breath of the Wild. Sadly, jumping is not a thing, and at times even the smallest ledge can keep you from pressing on, even though it is smaller than a common step. Some inclines you are able to climb up, but no matter how small they are, you will be forced to walk very, very slowly. Now let's talk about Pokémon moves. If you have watched any video about the game so far, you will know that parts of the battle system have been changed, making it possible for Pokémon to master a move. After they have mastered it, they can use the move either in Agile or Strong style. While Strong style inflicts more damage, Agile style has the possibility to give you 2 turns in a row, while doing less damage. Keep in mind, however, that doing this will also use more of your PP. All of this is completely okay, even if the game does a poor job explaining this to the player. Something the game will, however, not explain to you in the slightest is that some moves have been changed. Those of you who have played Pokemon games before will know moves like Stealth Rock that will damage any Pokemon that is switched into the battle. Moves like this have been changed to now deal continuous damage to the Pokemon on the other side of the field each turn. So a lot of the Pokemon knowledge that longtime players think to have is no longer useful and has, in some cases, been outright thrown out of the window. The AI in this game is subpar in most ways, which is usually nothing new to the Pokemon franchise. So while an electric type Pokemon uses electric attacks on a ground type over and over again, even though it knows other kinds of attacks, and its electric attacks have no effects, it will still use them. The real problem comes with Pokemon chasing you around the overworld, where they can get stuck on rocks, trees, or even other Pokemon. Especially the alpha Pokemon could, as mini boss battles, have made more interesting if they used moves that were effective against your current Pokemon, if they knew moves like that. The problem with the pathing and the AI, however, becomes really prevalent in fights where the arena has an obstacle in it, like in the first real boss battle with the Pokemon Cleaver that you will encounter. The fight is being hyped up as being very difficult, and even the in-game characters will tell you that dodging will be vitally important. Not to mention that this fight was the one that they used for all of the trailers in the game. In all reality, all you will have to do is keep the tree between you and Cleaver until it charges and hits the tree to be dazed so that you can attack it, because Cleaver's pathing AI has no way to find a way around the tree to actually attack you. Sadly, the AI in Pokemon Legends Arceus, in many instances, makes the game more hilarious than anything else. The part where a lot of reviewers have called it challenging seems odd to me due to these glaring issues and shouldn't be a problem for any player who has two brain cells to rub together. The level design of the game is pretty obviously using a lot of copy and paste. This is pretty obvious in the first town that you get to. The main street is lined with identical buildings that simply have the colors of their roofs to differentiate between them. Sure, the interiors are different, for the most part, but the design of the town itself looks pretty uninspired. The same can be said for the different areas that you will travel to catch Pokemon. To say that this game is an open world is quite misleading. Instead, you will be escorted to the area you want to go to and back to town. Entering or exiting every building will also show your loading screen. While the loading times have been kept in check, they are still a problem for the immersion aspect of the game. The best analogy that can be made here is Guild Wars 2, in which you have wide open areas you can explore, but these are separate levels and not an open world. Now, I can look past bad graphics, as I've said a lot of times, and a lot of the other things when it comes to games, as long as the game in itself is good and fun. For the most part, I must say that I do like this game. The crafting mechanics as well as the battle mechanics are solid, and it can be quite fun to sneak up on a Pokemon to try and catch it. However, working mechanics are only one part of what you need in a fun game. While I agree that a sense of progression is definitely there, the way to get there is simply ridiculous, and you will catch dozens, if not hundreds of the same Pokemon to get the tasks the game set you to complete. Just to give you an example. One of the research tasks you have for the Pokemon Bidoof is to catch 7 heavy specimen. I caught over 30 Bidoof to get that task done, and this took me roughly an hour since I was not always able to make the catch, or the Pokemon was defeated in battle when I didn't manage to surprise it. While in this particular case it was only one Bidoof that I had to evolve to get its page in the Pokédex filled out to 100%, there are other Pokemon of whom you will need several to evolve to complete your research assignment. Another reason to catch several of the same Pokemon, in other words. All in all, the game is very grindy and not very rewarding. You will scour areas you have been to over and over again to gather resources to craft Pokeballs and other items, or to simply catch Pokemon, only to release them again as soon as you get back to town, because released Pokemon will give you items to raise your Pokemon stats. To progress, you have to raise your membership level in the Galaxy team, and you will have to complete research tasks to do so. Or at least that's what the game tells you. While in fact it is enough to simply catch a bunch of Pokemon to get research points, even if you have their pages in the Pokédex already filled out to 100%. During one exploration session I caught over 100 Pokemon, most of them Shinx and Bidoof, and ended up with enough points to get to the next membership level. This in itself is poorly thought out and kind of makes the completion of research tasks pointless. You can simply run around, catch every Pokemon you see, return to camp, hand them in, rest, rinse and repeat to advance in the story. While I understand that this makes it possible for players who do not wish to finish the research tasks to complete the game, it is a huge letdown that the main focus of the game can be avoided this easily. The side quests called requests are also quite uninspired and will usually come down to "Go get me that Pokemon" or "Fill out the page in the Pokédex for that Pokemon and show it to me." Only very few of these requests are really interesting and will deviate from this path. A good example here is a quest where you have to investigate a kid playing with a Driftloon at the beach in the evening. This actually plays well into the story and the setting, where it is explained that people do not know much about Pokemon. They would not know that Driftloon is known to carry off children, and so a quest to discover this makes sense and is a nice callback to the Pokédex entries in older games. Sadly, this quest is very short and, as I said, these requests are few and far between. Oh boy, let's get into the story. I will try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but consider this your spoiler warning, since I cannot get into it without saying at least a few things about it. The game starts out with you creating your character, which is a nice touch, while floating in some kind of void with Arceus. Why? How? This is not explained to you. Even when you finally wake up on a beach and are taught how to catch Pokemon in this world, finally finding your phone again, the only mission you will get, and the only story explanation, is this. I bestow upon thee the Arc Phone and your mission. Meet all Pokemon. That is it. That is the entire plot explanation that you will get for quite a long time in the game. You do not know why Arceus pulled you from your own time, what your purpose here is, or if you will ever return home. In a standard Pokemon game, I would accept this kind of flimsy excuse for a plot, and that the character doesn't freak out about it at all, because it is a game made for kids, right? Something that you do not have to think about too deeply. However, Pokemon Legends Arceus does not follow this formula at all. It plays more like a traditional JRPG, which is why I cannot give it a pass here. In games like Final Fantasy X, where the main character is being pulled from their own time to be put in another timeline, the protagonist is always looking for a way out and how to get home, maybe even falling into despair as they do so. You might now say, but visual, that is too dark for a kids game and they simply could not do that in a game targeted at children. And to you I say, then what is this? The game outright tells you that if you fail the trial the Galaxy team tasks you with, you will be thrown out of the village and you will have to fend for yourself in the wild, which would very likely mean your death. It doesn't even beat around the bush, it outright states that you will die. While in other Pokemon games, not everyone might like you, you are reminded here that you are an alien in this world and that not everyone will trust you. You have to earn their trust. The problem in Pokemon Legends Arceus is that the character you play as simply accepts everything that is happening to them. They do not question it and do not freak out in the slightest, even when they discover that they have ended up in an age where people are actually afraid of Pokemon. And if you think that I'm exaggerating, please take a look at this screenshot. This, and the fact that people do not seem to know anything about Pokemon at all, breaks established Pokemon lore, especially for the Hisui/Sinnoh region. In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl we are able to find this little tidbit of information that, supposedly, predates the era Legend Arceus plays in. It states that there used to be no difference between Pokemon and humans, and that they lived together as equals. It also makes no sense that people would not know anything at all about the creatures that inhabit the land they live in, even if they were not actively training them as they do in later time periods. Speaking from experience, as someone who lives in an area with a lot of wild animals, I can tell you that everyone in my area knows at least the basics of the animals living here, without having studied them in detail or learning about them in school. The setting of Pokemon Legends Arceus would only make sense if Pokemon had suddenly appeared out of nowhere or if the people had come to this region from somewhere where Pokemon did not exist. The game also shies away from using the term magic to explain how Pokeballs work, instead going for the explanation that Pokemon have the mysterious power of turning small. This poses a whole lot of different problems though, since the Pokemon inside the Pokeball would surely be jostled around with every step that trainer takes. It is only later that magic or strange powers are mentioned to explain your fast travel ability, and for a side quest that is forced upon you in the evening when you want to go to bed for the night. So with all of these glaring issues, what score do I give the game? And do I recommend it to you for buying? Sadly, I cannot give a purchase recommendation at a full price. If the game goes on sale at some point in the future, or if you can pick up a used copy for a reduced price, I would say it is definitely worth $30, but not much more. With all these glaring issues and the full AAA price of €60 at the time of release, my final score for Pokemon Legends Arceus has to be 5 out of 10. This game is an average ripoff of the Breath of the Wild formula, an experiment if you will. From the state that this game is in right now, it looks and feels like a fan game that is based on a half-baked fanfiction. Had it not been a Pokemon game, I might have given it a higher score, but with a company like Game Freak behind it that clearly has the resources and experience to bring a better gameplay experience to their customers, I cannot, in good faith, rate this game any higher. The ugly graphics, stupid AI, and nonsensical setting as well as the grindy gameplay loop are nothing for the core audience of Pokemon players and certainly not for kids. So, do you agree with my assessment of the game? How was your experience in the Hisui region? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Visual Pony and I hope that this video finds you well in body and mind.